This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. I've received a mugging off from Mr. Frank Warren already off camera, so no doubt it's going to continue on camera. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying you. You were saying about the vest. It's a lovely day outside. I've popped inside to
Yeah, I can
speak
see
to
that. You like,
you.
I thought I look like you had a Peanuts cartoon strip.
I don't even know what that is, Frank, if I'm honest.
Snoopy.
Ah, I do know. I do know.
Yeah.
How's things?
Yeah, good. How's things with you?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Good, thank you. Busy, as always, but I suppose it's an exciting time to be in boxing, eh?
It certainly is. I mean, it's a very lively. There's no doubt about that.
I suppose just quickly, I caught up with you briefly on the Wednesday. I know you weren't out there for the whole week for Riyadh season Los Angeles, but what you did see in terms of, I suppose, the innovation on fight night, your man Lugo making his Queensbury debut. We've never seen a workout like that, at least I haven't before, on Santa Monica Pier, and just the way the rest of the week ran, just another successful Riyadh season week.
Yeah, phenomenal week. I mean, the Riyadh season certainly established itself in the States, no doubt about that. I mean, a really good card, good, everything. The week leading up to it, everything was top class. It was brilliant.
Obviously, this week, moving forward, back at York Hall, Denzel Bentley against Derek Asazi. Quite a good fight, actually. I think British boxing
It is.
have seen Asazi over the circuit on the last couple of years or so. That's what York Hall's for. I'm sure, no doubt about it being August, it will be hot as always, but a great fight to headline there.
It is, no doubt about that, and one that Denzel, needs to win. Needs to win. That it is a cracker of a fight, and a lot on the line. I mean, Denzel, I think he's ranked number two now by the WBO, and number one is Hamza. So it's quite an interesting situation. So that could be a big fight, but the other guy's in there, and he wants to win it as well. So we're going to get. I think we're going to get a real good, decent fight out of it.
It's funny the way that the boxing world sort of works when you look at Denzel's career after the over the last couple of years. Obviously, he was the first man to go and sort of I suppose I remember it was a lockdown show. There was the Felix Cash fight, and then there was that uncertainty coming off the loss. He's obviously gone on to do better than Felix had. Then was back out, looked strong, went to Janibek. There's no shame in going up and challenging a great, and then had a bit of a, I suppose a lot of people picked him to beat Nathan Heaney. He was on the back end of a
Yeah,
decision
yeah.
there, then came back and stopped Danny Dignam. It's a bit of an up and down roller coaster journey for him, and he can continue that this week in another good fight and good test.
Well, it is another good fight and a good test. I mean, he certainly can't afford to, lose this one, from his perspective. But he's shown what he's all about. And we've not just, and although he's had those couple of hiccups, or say hiccups, I mean, Nathan deserved to win that fight on the night. He was the better fighter on the night, got his tactics brilliantly right. But we stayed with him, and Martin's done a fabulous job keeping him focused and bringing through the disappointments. And life sometimes is about that. It's about getting the experience, and good fighters overcome that, and it does actually, I believe, strengthen their character.
There's always so much pressure on the O in boxing. Is Denzel Bentley the epitome of sort of how good British boxing can be when you don't give up just at, a loss?
Well, it does. I mean, and was it only a few weeks ago? Derek Chisora done the same thing. And I never, in for 1 minute, you know, I've got to be honest. I felt that he'd have a real tough time with Joe Joyce, and it was a brilliant fight, no doubt about that. A fabulous fight. I mean, they both give everything they had, and it just shows you, you get written off. He got written off by me. I said that there was a stage where he should have been retiring. He certainly proved me wrong. So that's what it's all about. Don't give up. If you've got it, don't give up. There comes a stage where you've got to. If you keep losing, there's no doubt about that. Or depending how you lose and how old you are as well. But you know, these guys are fighting men. They're fighters. They've got fighting hearts, and they believe in themselves. And if you believe in yourself, that helps.
You mentioned Derek Chisora. When I caught up with him, he said that he started his career with you and he'd like to finish his career with you. As of the roadmap that he's set out, that we're never completely sure if that will sort of stay into fruition. But we expect that he's got two more fights left. You said that you'd sit down and have lunch with him. Have you managed that yet? Have you got any feedback?
No, as you know, I was in LA, and this week I'm away, and I'm back. I'll be back next week, and we will be meeting up, and I'll be seeing him and Joe and other guys that I've got to meet. Got big, also meeting up with Raven. She's going to got a big fight which we put together for her. So there's lots of things happening, and I'm looking forward to seeing them all.
Raven Chapman, could that be the Sky Nicholson fight?
We'll find out in due course.
Fair enough, Frank. I suppose off the back of that, then, and if it's not the Sky Nicholson fight to one side, but Eddie's come out and said that you guys are planning another. I don't want to say 5v5 as such, but Queensbury versus Matchroom. I don't know if that's a Riyadh season affiliate or just something that you do on the
Well,
UK.
we want to do both of us want to do a 5v5. I mean, he obviously is looking for revenge, and I'm looking to do a 10-0.
Another 10-0.
Or sorry, a 20-0.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah.
had it both together.
I think that's definitely still eating at him. I tell you what, I spoke to Frank Smith, and we were obviously expecting. We know that the maid's outfit got ordered. Uh, he said that there wasn't a demand from Queensbury in the end to come into the offices and make the tea and the
That's not right. What happened was when he put it on, it was a bit tight. He put a bit of weight on, so he's had to have it altered.
So we'll have to get a new maid's outfit in for
He's
Frank
got to
Smith.
get a new one. Yeah.
He ain't missing out on that one. Frank, I suppose on the topic of that 5v5 then, is that something that you would look to stage, I suppose, with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh and Riyadh season again? I know that you guys said that you'd be able to do small
I,
ones.
look, when we talked about when it was put to us, we all jumped at it. Of course, we'd love to do that again in Riyadh. Um, and I'm sure that will one way or another get sorted out in the next few weeks. But yeah, I think it's a great formula. I thought it grabbed everybody's attention. Fights were competitive. The fighters were all up for it. It was good fun. It was actually. I mean, I would say that because we won it, but actually leading up to it and before the fights was all good fun. I quite enjoyed myself.
Well, I remember the media day, and it was never like it where you see four big heavyweights in a room alongside yourself and Eddie Hearn, and sort of that was, I suppose, the start of Daniel Dubois starting to give a little bit back. Let's go into that now because we're not too far away from Riyadh season, Wembley edition, the second of their international expansion. I suppose, firstly, on Daniel, you'll be very much within the loop. He is an outsider, of course, as a lot of people are going in to fight AJ. But we've seen a different Daniel, a more amped up one. He seems proper. He's got his teeth in for this one.
Well, he is. I mean, he was an outsider going into the Hrgovic fight, and a lot of people had him as a outsider against Gerald Miller. I have no problem with that. I mean, that's underestimating him at your peril. I don't think AJ would do. But then I look at AJ going in favourite against Usyk, going in favourite against Ruiz, and we see what happens.
When the two of them get into the ring, do you feel that Daniel's best chance comes early, where he just sort of tries to stick it on AJ and sort of assert that power he's got?
I don't think it's got to be something crude. I think it's got to be about using his boxing abilities. We know he's got power. We know AJ's got power. We know he's got a good jab. We know AJ's got a good jab. But it's who when they let that big bomb goes, and there's a counter's going to come back when they let that big shot go, and if it lands, how they're going to respond to it. I'm not talking about the knockout punch. I'm talking about when it's a real meaningful, hurtful punch, and how they, what their plan B is going to be, because whoever goes on the back foot in this fight ain't going to win it.
Frank, out of curiosity, what has allowed you to keep your faith in Daniel for so long? Because I've done interviews over the course of the last couple of years, and I suppose some may be deemed as disrespectful to Daniel as such, where the people I've spoke to have always said, look, Frank Warren deserves more gold medals and more cash than anyone could ever have for the job that you've done with Daniel. I suppose what you first saw in the first place, we are all now starting to see, but it wasn't always quite like that in some of the situations where you were getting him shots, etc. Have you always seen the Daniel we have now?
Yeah, you got to remember he's a young guy. He's only 26, and it's all about maturity and so on. But he had a good run, and then he had that fight with Joe, and Joe performed threw some lovely shots that night. He was in front, by the way, on a couple of the judges' card. If that fight had gone the distance, he would have won it. But he busted. He had a bad injury, and Joe did what he had to do. He kept working away and beavering away. And Joe said himself it's the hardest he ever got hit in a fight. He was in that fight, but he'd done the right thing, because if he'd have carried on, he'd have had a detached retina, and that'd been the end of his career. So he did the right thing. And some of the stuff that was said was, well, I just found it brutal. I mean, I didn't know at the time that he had a detached retina, and someone going down on one knee, I can understand the sort of gut reaction what people say, especially if you're being touted as being the next big thing. But once the swelling went down, because they couldn't do anything until the swelling went down, as far as MRIs and X-rays. Once you knew what the injury was and what the diagnosis was, he certainly did the right thing, and that was it. And to get him beat by Usyk is not the end of the world. I thought that the referee got it totally wrong with the low blow, but irrespective of that, that punch hurt Usyk. And what annoyed me about that fight, that for me was a winnable fight. And I feel that he let the referee get to him, and that is not what it's about. You've got to be your own referee. Referee went for the home fighter. That referee got that dreadfully wrong. That 4-minute break in between, the rest period was a liberty. But anyway, it happened. You can't do nothing about it. That's history, and you learn from it. And he's come back. And for me, that fight he had with Kevin Lorena, when he got caught on the top of the head, and I've seen fighters get caught with those shots, and Kevin can whack a bit, tore all the ligament in his leg, and he showed a lot of balls in that fight. It's a fight he couldn't put his weight on his foot, and done it eventually. Got the power there and done what he had to do, and that was the turning point for him. That fight I felt was his turning point, and obviously with Big Baby and with Hrgovic, which is a big step up for him, as far as the guy who supposedly took him to school in the gym, the guy who said he's got no balls and all this stuff. He went out there and done a job on him, and he busted him up. He busted him up big time, took the fight out of him. I think he was very lucky not to have stopped him at the end. I think it was the 5th round, wasn't it? The end of the 5th round, when it was. So, he's on a good win. He's been in his last few fights, has been better opposition than AJ's been in with, that's for sure. And it'd be interesting to see, with AJ, who's got a new trainer, and Ben Davison, who we've all got a lot of respect for Ben as a trainer. Don's doing a great job with Daniel as well. But I just feel that I don't know. I feel like it's my man's time, and I've believed in him from the beginning. I believed he has what it takes, and sometimes it doesn't go. You get some bumps in the road. But like we talked about, with Denzel just now and other fighters, you see them come through that. Good fighters come through adversity. It's not always about having a perfect record.
Where would a win for Daniel rank in terms of and
If he beats him,
yeah,
if he beats him, he's the 3rd best heavyweight in the world.
From a career standpoint, for what you've done in terms of seeing Daniel in terms of a very, very young lad in sparring against adults, and then taking him on board and building him as a fighter, it wasn't easy, especially a lot of it being, I suppose, at the start in behind closed doors. Where would that rank for you, Frank, a win over AJ for Daniel?
It'd be a fantastic achievement for him. I'd be pleased for him. When I got into boxing, there was the British heavyweights. We had some good heavyweights, but none of them won a world title. Going back to those days. I'm talking about, you got to go back to not the last century, the century before we had a heavyweight champion. Then Frank Bruno had 3 attempts, and he came with me. He won the world title. Herbie Hyde won a world title with me. Obviously, Tyson's won a world title while I've been working with him. And Daniel's now a world champion. So I'm quite pleased with all of them. And I think if he beats AJ, which I really do believe he can beat him, I think that's right up there, right up there. One of the great moments for me in boxing, because I've believed in him since he was a young kid.
Well, the card's stacked, obviously. We've got Kakachi on it. Your man Hamza Shiraz. I know that we've got Willie Hutchinson against Josh Boazzi. I know Mark Chamberlain's on it as well. Not
They're
sure.
all ours. They're all with
Oh,
us.
I know, yeah. I
Catchy.
was just thinking that as I was reading them out, actually. What's your pick of the night for that one on the undercard?
Oh, yeah, you sure? I mean, all of them. They're all good fights. I mean, it's a cracking card. Yeah, I mean, the main event is a brilliant main event. And I'm not being rude, it doesn't need an undercard, but
Oh,
because
yeah,
it's Riyadh season, because it's the special edition of the Riyadh season at Wembley, it tells you what the name Riyadh does with its association with boxing. You're getting spoilt for choice. You're getting more than spoilt for choice. And you've got a main event. Every fight's a main event. Every fight's a main event.
Going into, I suppose, a recap on the Olympics, we only had one medalist from Team GB, which was Lewis Richardson. We know that there may not be boxing in the 2028 Olympics, which would be something really, really, well, it would be a real big shame, given that, I mean, look, I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but if we're inducting breakdancing into the Olympics, then I think boxing more than deserves its spot. How sad would it be for, I suppose, Olympic boxing not to be included next? And what does
But
it mean for the current GB?
it's nothing to do with boxing. It's to do with the administration of amateur boxing. That's the problem. And it's got to get its act together. It's had some crap decisions over the years. I mean, Joe Joyce being one, he's still not received his gold medal yet. But you look at some of the stuff that's come out, it's been dreadful. And as a result of that, it sort of shoots itself in the foot. There's a breakaway there's a new organisation being formed. I hope by then that they will be in a position to take over and resurrect what has always been a great sport. In 1 second, it was always bye, darling. Bye. Which is all. Sorry, it's my son. He's off to the airport. It's always been a great sport, and we shouldn't be getting bogged down with all this politics with these people. They always it's positions of power. For some reason, the people who get into power are not in nations that, how can I put it? For TV, for example, which makes the Olympics work around the world, they don't deliver huge money towards the Olympics. These various regions, but they've all got into some really strong positions of power, and it needs to be sorted out. And I don't blame the Olympic Committee. Having said that, there's a few things happened in boxing and Olympic that's obviously stolen the headlines, not just from boxing, but everything. I mean, this gender thing and these trans and chromosomes and everything.
Yeah, Frank, I was going to ask you about that. And look, it's a bit of I suppose it's a difficult one to talk on because there's a matter of sensitivity that you have to apply.
I don't think there's any sensitivity at all
Well,
about it. I can't be so white people can't be just honest and genuine about it.
IBA had banned Emaine Caliph from boxing
Yeah.
as an amateur. Now I don't know what happened, but obviously she was allowed her place in the Olympics through the Olympic qualifiers. Obviously, she then had the stoppage, which sparked the big debate, and then ended up winning gold. The problem lies within the chromosomes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm any form of gender expert, but there are, to be banned, there clearly is a previous issue. I mean, what do you make of it all?
Well, I mean, if the case is, because I can't, I mean, I'm not privy to the medical information, but obviously there's been two different decisions made on this. So if the chromosomes are as that she's a male, he's a male, right? They are a male, whatever these pronouns and whatever they call it these days, but whatever it is, then and wants to be a boxer, then fight men. Can't fight women if you're a man. I mean, I don't know what her body is. If she was, is she, I don't know what she, what, whether she's physically a woman or born a woman. I mean, if somebody's trans, I don't believe they should be allowed to box. I mean, Sharon Davis has made quite a few things about various sports, athletics and swimming, and I agree with her. The difference between boxing is you're punching somebody, and that's the big difference. So for me, if somebody is a trans and they want to be a woman, then fight men. Because you originally were a man. You still be, if you're a trans athlete, you still be that, but you're not born a woman. You weren't born with a womb, so you're not, you're basically not a woman. And if you looked at it the other way round, if a woman wanted to become a man, would you let her fight men? Would they allow that? I don't know. But or have a trans division.
It's a very 2024 topic.
But it's unfair. It's unfair to people. It's unfair that they're bending over backwards for all this stuff, whether it be in sport or any other areas, that everybody has to change all the rules for them. So, someone, the girls who've trained all that, the last 4 years or from young age to go and box and go to the Olympics, suddenly you're drawn against somebody who, who's been banned previously for being, having male chromosomes or whatever it is. Suddenly I'm getting drawn against her. It's a bit disheartening, isn't it?
It's a very 2024 topic that I suppose none of us would have imagined.
Well, it's a 2024 topic that bloody people can't be honest about because, I don't want to be cancelled out. I don't want to be all this nonsense. And I find that wrong. Right? That's one of the, I'm an old geezer. And I don't like all this stuff that goes down. I believe that if you want to, like Frank Maloney, he decided he wanted to become he wanted to change, no longer be a man, he wanted to be a woman and whatever. Good luck to him, do it. He's not interfering with anybody. That's his choice. He wants to go and do it. That's it. But then we should have to all change what we are. I mean, I don't like the idea of all these mixed toilets. Women going into,
yeah.
I don't like that. And I think about like my granddaughters. I want to go, like you go to a restaurant or pub, some bloke's had a few drinks in there or whatever, and she's in. I don't like that. I mean, what was wrong with separate toilets?
Yeah. No, I definitely.
What's wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think it's quite hygienic.
I think it's just unfortunately seems to be the way the world's going.
It's bullshit, isn't it? It's all bullshit at the end of the day. It is what it is, and we keep getting dragged down. And I mean, some of this stuff is horrific. I looked at that clinic they closed down. Was it the Tavistock clinic? It's horrific what they've done to kids. Now, kids. Who knows? Do you know what you wanted to? What you did you ever think about stuff when you was 7 or 8 or 9? I mean, it's madness.
Say this because
It's madness. How can anybody? It's like, and I saying this as well. It's like deciding to give votes to people 16. Who knows? I didn't know what I want to be at 16, let alone what government I want to be electing. I just don't. I don't get all this. And what is it all about? It's. Listen, I'm an old geezer. What do I know? But it's. I always think that people generally are born with common sense, but there's a lot of it is gone out the window now.
It's a bit of a weird one because I only was in school 5 or 6 years
Last week.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it's changed so much because all of this stuff we're discussing now seems to be prominent within schools, but only 5 or 6 years ago it wasn't. So I don't understand. I sort of similar to you. I don't get how things have moved so quickly in such a short amount of time. It baffles me, really.
Well, when I went to school, you had boys' entrance and a girls' entrance, and the playgrounds were separate.
Yeah.
That's where it was, and it didn't hurt us, And as you look at things, and we obviously, I mean, I've got 6 kids, so we obviously found out things without telling. Sort of a kid who one week believes in Father Christmas, the next week's been shown out to put a condom on a banana or whatever it is. It's what is going on? It's nuts.
Right, let's move on from that one. I suppose just lastly on the Olympics, Jake Paul has said that he would like to be USA pick for 2028 and believes he can bring a gold medal home. Um, thoughts?
They need all the help they can get, the Shermans. I mean, I've got to tell you, I grew up on the Americans winning, it being really successful at the Olympic Games. You look at and the Cubans, and it was the Germans, Russians, very, very successful, and they've just gone to pot. Their boxing program, they just don't deliver anymore.
What can be done? Is it just a matter of grassroots investment?
I don't know. I don't know how they work it. I don't know what the investment is, or maybe people looking at other sports. You know, maybe they're looking at basketball or the big heavyweight. But look, this. I mean, we always say, "Where's the heavyweights? They're playing basketball, or they're playing American football, whatever it is. They're big guys." But all the lighter, where's the lighter weights?
Mm, yeah. Right, Frank, two more from me because I don't want to ruin your whole afternoon and keep up your whole afternoon. Turkey Al Sheikh had a bit of a back and forth with Canelo. Now, the reason I sort of get your opinion on this, I suppose it's the first time, and I don't want to say stand up because what His Excellency is doing for the sport is really, really positive, but it's definitely the first time we've seen a fighter fire back. We know the amount of money involved. I suppose what's interesting from the inside is Canelo, we're hearing now, has always given really bullish figures and sort of always like to be the boss, basically. We heard recently in an interview that he takes 80% from everything whenever he fights, whether that be water sales in the arena or whatever. How true that is, I don't know. But interesting to see it play out. What are your thoughts on it, Frank?
They have spats in boxing, don't you? I mean, everybody's not the same. Everybody's got their, he's a big star, Canelo. He's done everything that's been asked of him, and he delivers. He delivers. Him and Crawford is a very intriguing fight. I certainly would like to see it. I mean, it'd been I'd been interested to see how Crawford had done at that weight, or what the weight they made the fight at, and something we want to see. Who knows? It may change. Let's hope it does. He's very passionate. He's Turkey Al Sheikh's very passionate about the sport. And I suppose maybe it's a bit of frustration from his perspective or his point of view that something that we all thought was going to happen isn't happening for some reason. I get that.
Just lastly, I saw an interview with Eddie, and I can't remember when this time was, but it was a little bit about when you and Barry had met, I think, for the first time in 20 years. Now, I've got a feeling it was when the 5v5 may have finally been signed or something like that. But he said it was obviously funny from growing up and being a kid. And obviously, for example, we talk about, the shooting incident, and then he's got the police at his house, and then you had.
That didn't happen.
Oh, really?
Get out. Why would they go to him? Do me a
Yeah,
favour.
I did think that myself, to be fair.
Yeah, he was right. I don't, look, I think old Barry's pulling everybody's leg on that. I certainly do not believe that happened.
What did make me laugh though is he says that after sort of not seeing each other for 20 years or so, that the conversation was funny because the two of you had gone sort of from nemesis is in business to, I suppose, where you're a little bit older now, and it's, oh, you've got this problem with your back, Baz. Oh, yeah, I'm experiencing similar. Was it weird sort of having that paths cross at that point?
Yeah, I was surprised to see him there. He was there for a snooker meeting, and it was, but it was, yeah, it does. I mean, I've spoken with him and for many, many years, or seen him for many years, and obviously, you know, yeah, it was. He was there, and my son George was also there, so it was quite funny. I sort of stood back, I'm looking at him with his dad, and George is with obviously me, I'm his father, and it was, yeah, yeah, quite a funny time, yeah. And he's right about it. All the back. Who's the doctor you're seeing? What's he doing? Oh, yeah, I've had this stuff. Yeah, okay. What time is it? Yeah, all right. And don't forget, and do your flies up, Barry, and there's all that sort of stuff. We've two old geezers there.
Frank Warren, as always, thank you very much for your time. Lovely speaking to you, mate. It will be
And
on
your
the
son?
Bevis, the
Sorry.
It will be Oscar Bevis in town Saturday for the fight night, not myself.
Oh, you've been fired, have you?
I'm off to Singapore actually.
Oh, yeah. You sure it's not your vest? It's not going to the dry cleaners. You can't come in.
Bit of a low blow there, Frank. Thank you very much for your time, mate, and see you soon.